Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Drew. This is Just a Guy Linux, and this is the Debian 13 minimal install video. Now, I did this video over 2 years ago when Debian 12 came out. It is without question the most popular video on my channel. There is an update, and this is it. So for those of you who are here for the first time, thank you so much. And if you are watching this and are a returning guest, again, thanks a million. So we're going to get started. Three things. One is this is a minimal install, so I'm not going to be installing KDE or any type of graphic user interface. Later on, after this video, I might be doing an OpenBox install. The reason why I would choose OpenBox because I would try to keep things super light. Yes, OpenBox has been around a really long time. It is something that's not currently being worked on anymore, but it is stable and feature complete. Second, I am not using a virtual machine here. I'm actually installing this on physical hardware. And third, as I've mentioned and in the title, this is a install for Btrfs, the goal of which is to set up your partitions that you can use time shift later. If that is unfamiliar to you, you may want to take a look at it, and some of you may be interested in what time shift is for. I'm not going to be like talking about that. I'm trying to keep this really quick. So, in order for us to accomplish what we just said, we do need to go to the advanced options, okay? It's not going to be that hard, trust me, okay? We're going to go to expert install. Again, not that hard, trust me, okay? Now, we're going to get to the installer menu. This is going to look a little bit different from those of you that are used to that graphical install. And we're going to choose the language, which is, for me, English. Okay, I'm going to be hitting enter a lot, but at the same time, when we get to the partitioning part of it, definitely need to slow down. So let's go ahead and select the United States, which for me at least, and the locale, which is United States. I don't need to add an additional locale, so I just hit enter one more time. Now I don't need Braille display, so I'm going to go down arrow and now configure the keyboard. American English, I'm going to select that. And let's go ahead and detect and mount installation media. Okay. I'll try not to keep, I'll try, if I have to pause, I will. Generally, I don't have to pause that often for an install. So I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to load the installer components. And again, I don't need to select anything. I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter to continue. Okay, detect the network hardware. So let's go ahead and select that. I'm on a wired connection, so this won't be very, this can be really simple for me. Configure, auto configure, and yes. So it'll detect. If you're on Wi-Fi, I'm actually, there are videos that will explain how to do the Wi-Fi, and it's not that hard, really. It's really not that hard. I'm not going to change the host name. I don't think I need to, especially for this video. So I'm just going to hit enter, and I don't need to change the domain name. So I'm just going to hit enter one more time. Let's go ahead and set up the users. Now, again, I don't necessarily, here's a change. I usually say no to allow login as root, okay? It's a lot simpler for me just to say no here and enter my name so that I have sudo privileges later, okay? So I'm going to say Drew and then hit enter one more time. I don't use a particularly powerful password. I just 2 characters for me because this machine's not going anywhere. So 2 characters, and there you go. Configure the clock. I'm going to go ahead and select that and then set the clock using NTP. And yep. And now I hit it enter one more time to continue. I do live in the eastern part of the United States, so I just say select. And now I'm going to select detect disks. And let's go ahead and partition. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit more challenging, and rather than just hit enter a bunch of times. All right. For those of you who want to just keep going and say guided and use all the free space and blah, 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 that's fine. We're going to use manual here. So we're going to go down to manual. All right. And I'm going to select this, the NVMe 0N1. It is the one, you know, the one that I'm going to be using as the primary on this disk. Okay. So I'm going to select it. And I'm going to create a new empty partition table on this device. So, yes. I'm going to be using GPT as the table type. Now, I'm going to go down one arrow to select the free space for that particular drive. And I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to create a new partition. And let's just call it 1G for 1 gigabyte. And this is going to be for your EFI system partition. So just 1G, continue, and let's put it at the beginning. And we're going to go down the one arrow and use as, select it, and go down to EFI system partition and select that, enter. Okay, cool. We're going to go done. Now we've got that first partition taken care of. We're going to use all the rest of the free space. So go down the arrow one and create a new partition. Everything is going to be included. So just hit continue one more time. And we're going to use this as Btrfs. All right. So select that. And we're done. Now I'm going to go, and now I'm just going to go finish and write changes to disk. It's going to ask me, hey, you didn't set up a swap partition. Generally, I don't. I use zram swap, and I will demonstrate that later. But at the end of the day, it's a choice. If you want to set up a swap partition, then you can. So I'm going to say, do you want to return? The answer is no. And I'm going to write the changes, so yes. Okay, stop. Before you hit install the base system, this is where it gets a little bit more challenging. We actually need to go into the command line or the busy box, and you're going to do that by using Control-Alt-F2. Okay, Control-Alt-F2 on your keyboard puts you into this environment where you're going to hit enter. Okay, now type df space -h. Okay, you're going to look at your file system, and the bottom two things that are on this list is the dev NVMe 0N1P2 and then P1. We're going to U-mount or unmount those two things. So let's say U-mount, and then we're going to say target boot EFI. Okay. And let's do the same thing. We're going to say U-mount target. Okay. Now, we're going to, the next step is to mount to the MNT directory. So we're going to do that by saying dev NVMe N1P2. And we're going to use /MNT and hit enter. Boom. Now we're going to cd into mount. And let's ls. Okay, you're going to see there is one subvolume already created. But what we're going to need to do is actually move that so that basically rename at rootfs. And we're just going to rename it to @. That's for Btrfs, for time shift later. Okay, so let's do that now and hit enter. Now we're going to create a few more, actually 4 more subvolumes. Let's go ahead and say ls so that you can see that that has changed. Now we're going to Btrfs, and it's going to be subvolume. So you just substitute su for subvolume, cr for create, and at home for to create the at home subvolume. Boom. Let's go ahead and up arrow and remove home. And the next one is going to be snapshots. Okay, one more up arrow. The next one is going to be is going to be log. And then finally cache. Okay. I'm going to clear the screen. You can do the same thing if you would like by using Control L. Okay, it does make a nice clean screen. I am going to mount target now. Okay, so we're going to use mount -o. All right, and it's going to use no A time, and we're going to say comma compress equals zstd comma, and the name of the subvol is equals at. All right, and we're going to go space dev nvme 0 n1 p2. Okay, so basically if you're using SDA, this would be like SDA2. All right, and we're going to space and we're going to put this on target. There you go. Let's go ahead and clear the screen, and we can do that by saying control or using Control L. And what we need to do next is to mount the target directory. So to do that, we're going to say mount and then -o space no A time compress equals zstd comma, and the subvol equals at and space dev NVMe. Now again, this would be something like if you had an SDA or if it would be SDA2 most likely if you're not using an NVMe drive. And then so P2, and we're going to mount that to target. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create directories for our subvolumes. We're going to say mkdir, and then let's use the parent switch. Target boot EFI. Now let's go and up arrow and say target home. Up arrow, take away the home, and we're going to use dot snapshots here. Okay, make sure that you use the dot in front of snapshots. Hit enter. Let's go ahead and up arrow, remove the dot snapshots, and say var log. And the last one is var cache. Okay. Let's go up arrow until we find that mount command again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Okay, let's use this. And we're going to just change this to mount. And we're going to use target /home. Okay, good. Now hit enter and go up arrow. The second one is going to be snapshots. And let's go to the end. And remember, this is dot snapshots. Okay, enter. Now, one more time up. And the subvolume is going to be called log. End of the line. Remove dot snapshots, and we're just going to say var. Remember var here, and log. Okay, so var target, var log on the end. Enter. Last one, we're going to go up arrow, remove log, put in cache, end of the line, and it's var cache. So target var cache. Okay, and enter. Nice. Last thing we need to mount is the target boot EFI. So we're going to do that using mount and dev NVMe. And this is going to be on P1. So if you're on SDA, it would be SDA1. So N1, P1, and then target boot EFI. Okay? Now, unfortunately, we actually have to use a text editor to edit our FS tab. And in order to do that, we're going to say nano and target etc FS tab. Okay? And hit enter. Now, we're going to use the arrow key to go all the way down to this first Btrfs. So let's go ahead and actually remove some of the spaces that we don't necessarily want. Okay, and let's remove defaults since we are using no A time. And we're going to say comma compress equals zstd. And remember also that we didn't use root fs, we were just using the @ symbol. I'm also going to remove this section here. It doesn't really matter how far, as long as they are spaced apart, you're good. And I'm going to remove 0 here and put in 1. And that is because it is the root. And when it goes through the process of on boot, it's going to look at this first and then everything else second as far as subvolumes. So that's the reason for putting 1 there. I don't know that I described that well, but I've found that this works pretty well. So in order for us to continue, we're going to have to add all of the other subvolumes. And in order to do that, let's Control K, okay, Control K once. Now let's Control U 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Very good. Now let's go to the second line of these Btrfs and say /home. Okay. Everything else will stay the same, except it will be the subvolume will be at home, but the 1 now will be changed to 2 on the end of the string. Okay. Let's also go to dot snapshots here on the second line. Everything else will stay the same. Oh, I got to change this. So snapshots. It's word wrapping. Sorry. And we're going to change the last character, that 1, to a 2. All right. And let's go back. Next, the last 2 are going to be var /log. Again, the subvol is going to be log with the last character 2. And var cache, where the subvol is going to be cache at cache, and 2 on the end of that as well. Okay, now with all of this, you're going to write it out, which means Control O, and hit Enter, and Control X, and now everything is done. So we are going to Control Control Alt F1. And now you can start your install base system. So hit Enter. Now I'm going to go ahead and pause. This might take, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half, but that's not very long. Okay, we're picking the kernel, and we are using the default, which is the Linux image AMD64, and hit Enter. And I'm going to use the generic drivers. Okay, so I didn't pause, but you know, it'll only be a second or two. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and configure the package manager. I'm going to say yes, use a network mirror. I always pick the top one. I am in the United States, as I said before, so we're going to pick this Debian mirror. Now, for most of you, if you know if something is close to you, there's nothing wrong with going ahead and selecting it. It may end up being what you're looking for, maybe the fastest mirror. The one thing that I can say without fail is the top 2. You'll never go wrong with the top 2 mirrors here. I happen to know that one of the fastest mirrors for me is actually the last one on this page, on this list. So I am going to pick that. Again, you know, buyer beware, the top two, usually the right choice. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to hit continue again. I am going to use the non-free firmware. Again, I'm going to use the non-free software. Again, personal preference here. And I genuinely just say no to enable source repos. And again, my preference. So if this is something that you want to keep for a long time, I would definitely recommend adding the backported software. Towards the end, you know, if you get through a first year of using Debian, more and more some of the backported software will represent newer packages that you can add later on. And that might be something, in fact, I'm interested in. So I always add the backported software and then hit continue. By the way, you do that by just, you know, going down and then hitting the space bar and then using tab to go over continue. And now go ahead and continue. Let's go ahead and select and install software. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. So I'm going to say no automatic updates. I like doing my own. It's just a personal preference again. So there's nothing wrong with just saying sudo apt update and then sudo apt upgrade or what have you. I usually like to just keep it like more in my control. I say no to the popularity contest. And right now is where you're going to have, for most of you that want and know what you want, as far as most of you, you're going to be able to pick whichever desktop environment that you want here. I am going to be, like I said, this is a minimal install. So I just kind of like uncheck rather the desktop environment completely. And I usually add the SSH server so that I can like remote into a server. Again, you don't have to have it. So I'm just going to just have standard utilities for now. Okay. But if you want to be able to like SSH in to your machine, you're going to have to install it anyway. But I'm just going to say select and stay selected with the standard utilities. And I'm going to go down here and hit continue. Now, if I had selected the SSH server, it may have added 15 packages, something like that. But overall, it's such a easy thing just to you know, if you wanted to install it later. Okay, let's install the grub bootloader. A little slower than I thought it was going to be. Okay, here we go. The answer is going to be yes. Again, I'm using the default yes here. So update NVRAM, yes. There, like I said before, there is nothing on this machine at all. If you wanted to do something that was maybe a dual boot, you want to pay attention here, but this is going to be the only operating system on this particular test machine. So do I want to run the OS prober? No, because there's nothing else on there except Debian. And let's finish the install. And yes, now we're going to continue, and it is going to reboot into our minimal install. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and clear the screen. That's Control L again. I want to make sure LSBLK. what we have here is a list of the drives, as well as, and you're going to see on NVMe 0N1P2 the different subvolumes. Okay, so what I'd like to do for the last part of this video is to install a swap partition. We didn't do that during the install, so for me, especially with an SSD drive, I usually say sudo apt install zram-tools. Okay. And now this is different than it used to be. You can just say sudo nano etc default zram swap. Okay. And it used to be that you had to uncomment this section here, and apparently you don't have to do that any longer. So let's go ahead and just exit and clear the screen again. And if you want to see it, let's just say lsblk again. You're going to see that right there, that zram swap of 32 gigabytes. So my swap is active and is being used. And that, friends, is the end of the video. So hope that you enjoyed it. If you are interested, I will follow up from exactly this point and install a mouse-driven interface called OpenBox. If you're not familiar with it, maybe you'll like it. So until then, see ya.